This is Dr. Martha Durham with the Why Did They Do That podcast here in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm a psychologist, and I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Dr. Mary Ladd, who is a psychiatrist in town. So she writes the meds, but she also really connects with her patients. She does a little bit more than most psychiatrists, maybe a little bit more therapeutic stuff, because some don't. And that's fine too.
Absolutely.
And then generally I'm doing the therapeutic part. So Mary and I are going to talk about why people ghost other people and what you can do about that. So welcome, Mary.
Thanks for having me, Martha.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to be here. This is awesome.
This is going to be fun.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people have been ghosted.
I agree with that. That was not a thing that happened really when I was on the dating scene, but
Right.
it feels like it's been a lot more.
Well, and you know, a lot of people say it's because of the internet.
Yeah.
And internet dating.
Yes.
Like it's easier when you're just texting somebody to just disappear.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Have you been ghosted?
I have not actually been ghosted before. I got broken up with via email, though. Does that count?
Kind of.
Do you think
because
that
was
counts?
the extent of it, and then you never talked again?
We talked on the phone maybe then like once or twice, but then that was it.
That feels like they tried to do the right thing.
I think they did.
Or you tried to do the right thing.
Yes.
Has a friend ever disappeared?
That's a great question. I actually don't think I've ever had that happen before.
That's because you're so fabulous. People don't do that to you.
Thanks.
So no, let me correct that. So I have been ghosted.
Yeah.
And one thing I tell people is the problem is with the ghoster. The problem is not with you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will want to blame themselves.
Right.
Right? Like, what did I do? How could I be better? And a part of what a ghoster is doing is avoiding an unpleasant conversation.
Absolutely.
And so I would say it's with the ghoster, and at the very least, they have a communication issue.
100%. And definitely, I think there's also just fear of confrontation and hard conversations.
Yes.
And not to, I think that goes with all different generations.
Yeah.
But I think it's really challenging for our Gen Z and Gen Alpha because they have had so much of their primary communication behind screens.
Yes.
And so really have never had to do the phone or in person as much as they have over screen.
Frankly, I think that's a problem.
Agreed.
You know, I
Agreed.
really push people to put down those screens, to look each other in the eye, and to connect as humans.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the reality is no one likes to be uncomfortable.
Right.
And, like, there's no way around it. These conversations are
Yeah.
super uncomfortable.
They are.
So I think but practicing being uncomfortable in conversations is really important.
It's emotionally healthy, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what we're going for. We want people to be as emotionally healthy as they can be.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I think about with it is building a sense of self. And the way I define a sense of self, it's not self-confidence. It's what are you good at and being okay with that. What are you not so good at and maybe you need to work on and being okay with that. And what do you suck at? And realizing, I'm not going to work on that because I'm bad. I don't want to do it.
Let me ask you this, Martha, because I think this would
Ask
be
me.
interesting. Yeah, I'm going to ask you.
Ask me.
I'm going to ask you a hard question.
Ask it.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Do you think there's ever a spot where people are appropriate in ghosting someone?
Heck yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
When it's dangerous.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you qualify as dangerous? Because I think that can be a little bit of a gray zone.
It can be, and what it shows us is an issue on both sides sometimes. So really dangerous is an abusive person, maybe somebody who's stalking you, you're in actual physical or emotional danger. And then I want to talk about what I mean by emotional danger, because just feeling bad and having to have a conversation is not emotional danger.
Correct.
And everybody who hurts your feelings is not a narcissist.
Absolutely.
That's not what we're, if that's what you're saying, you're probably the ghoster a lot,
Yes.
and we have to work on your communication. But if it's truly dangerous, I would say, and you probably need to get some help.
Yes.
You need to call law enforcement. You need to do something to make sure you're safe. So in situations like that, 100%. If it's a brand new relationship, I wish you wouldn't ghost, but let's say you've just texted a few times on a dating app. Some people will decide, I'm just not going to re-engage because I had a bad first conversation and I don't want to do that. while I don't love it, that's more acceptable than having talked a long time.
Absolutely.
And then what if you've been in a years-long friendship and you decide to
Yes.
disappear? I think that's terrible.
Yes.
That you need to do something different.
Because I think there's been a big push over the past couple of years, I think appropriately, talking about boundaries.
Yes.
But I think people get confused about they think that ghosting is setting a boundary, but
Yeah.
it's not really setting a healthy boundary.
It feels a little immature.
It does. Yes.
You know?
Yeah. So I think that's important to kind of differentiate too, that boundaries are good, boundaries are healthy, boundaries aren't bad things. They're
Not at
really
all.
good things. But there's a way to set a boundary that's healthy and doesn't leave the person in the dark.
Correct.
And I
Love
think
it.
that's where people get kind of confused.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And then I think with my clients, the work is teaching them how to have uncomfortable conversations, teaching them what a real boundary is. So a lot of times I have 2 different files in my office. Like for new folks, I have a more flexible, those kind of manila looking files, okay? And they're kind of easy to manipulate. And then I have these really strong files if I'm going to keep someone and there's going to be some paperwork in there, and you can't bend those. So I'll hold them and I'll go, okay, this boundary, this flexible boundary, that feels pretty good. This rigid boundary, that's not so good.
Right.
And then if I just have a stack of papers with no file around it, that's too loose.
Right.
Trying to teach what your boundaries should be.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think that can help people have those uncomfortable conversations. And what some people are afraid of is vulnerability.
I agree with that. So that was actually going to be my next question to ask you is why do we think people get so uncomfortable with these conversations? Because I think it's not just one thing.
Yeah.
So definitely I think being vulnerable is one.
Right.
I also think fear of hurting another person's feelings or being yelled at by another person or just having vitriol spewed at you by another person turns a lot of people off. And it's just easier not to have a conversation at all. Do you think there's any other reasons people...
Well, there's the reason if they really are a narcissist and they're cruel.
Yes.
That is very rare.
Yeah.
So trust me, not everybody's a narcissist, y'all. But some people are cruel.
Yeah,
And they're
I
like,
agree.
I want power and control.
100%.
And a lot of times that goes back to childhood. You know, I don't think everything comes from childhood, but a lot does.
Yeah.
Where you didn't have power and control. And so then in your adult life, you're a little underdeveloped and you're always seeking power and control.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And somebody hurts you, you're going to have maybe a juvenile response of wanting to hurt them back. And then you would say, I'll show them.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, another thing that I think is really important that we, you know, as a child psychiatrist too, what are things that we can do to teach or advise parents to do to work with their kids on to help build those skills? And especially with our Gen Alpha, Gen Zers, what can we do to help them kind of build those skills?
So one thing that I've seen, we have swung too far toward you can't hurt anybody's feelings ever.
Yes.
And everything is hurting their feelings, which is not true. Honesty and constructive feedback are necessary. Okay? So I think I teach a lot of people, like some parents will say, we have to invite everybody to everything. And I'm like, well, you can't afford that.
Correct. And it's not realistic.
It's not realistic. So it's okay to say you have this smaller group of friends. And as long as you're not actively excluding people, like telling them about your party and you're not invited.
Right.
So little things like that, and the whole idea of everybody doesn't get a trophy.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yes.
Right? Like people rise to the top of whatever they're good at. It could be academics, it could be art, it could be athletics. And we don't need to say to everybody, you all deserve the top prize.
Absolutely.
We have to work for things, right?
Right.
Another thing is I would look at the parent and say, okay, are you good at this?
Yeah, a lot of us aren't.
Right. Do you avoid conflict?
Yes.
Do you sweep things under the carpet?
Yeah.
Do you indirectly communicate? Don't.
Absolutely.
Teach your children by demonstrating healthier boundaries.
I think that's really great. And I think, too, when they're little, like mine right now are 8 and 6.
Precious.
I think, so fun.
Yeah.
Do you want them?
I love them. I'll take them.
Do you want them?
Mine are gone. I've got empty nest
Martha,
syndrome.
they're yours.
Okay.
They're potty trained.
I love that. And they're obviously emotionally healthy because you and Taylor are their parent.
But, you know, like when they're that age, sometimes you can actually, as parents, help them have those tough conversations. So, like, if they're at the playground or they're having a play date and there's conflict, like actually walking them through those conversations and being
Yes.
being there to help mitigate.
So some social engineering is what you're talking about.
Yes.
And when children are little, I think it's vital that you
Yeah.
are demonstrating. It's like hands-on learning,
Absolutely.
right? And then as they get better, you take your hands off, you advise them from afar, you don't helicopter, but that's
Yeah.
when they've learned.
Right.
Right? If things get dicey later in life, a little social engineering can still be okay. If they're being
Absolutely.
bullied or something, you can go in and talk to another parent or something, but mostly that is in those younger years.
Agreed.
And so listen, let's get back to vulnerability. If you're not vulnerable with people, you are not having a healthy relationship. You are not having a trusting relationship. And people fear it, but it's the only way to have a really fulfilling, healthy relationship.
I think we need to define like what is vulnerable.
So yes, and when to do it and when not to do it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's where boundaries come in.
Exactly. It's all
Right.
interconnected.
Right. So I think when you have vetted another human and they're vetting you, so you're kind of testing each other out.
Correct.
Okay, and that's I tell this to women all the time. How do women make friends? So women, in the South at least,
Yes.
will drop a little bit of information and see how the other woman reacts.
Yep.
Right? Like they might
Absolutely.
say something like, I'm going to just make up something dumb. I'm afraid of roller coasters. That's really dumb. But maybe
Yeah,
they'll
no,
say that.
yeah.
And the other woman might go, oh, me too. Okay? And nothing else. And they move on. If the other woman goes, what's wrong with you, you wimp?
Yes.
I'm not going to trust them to tell them
Absolutely.
anything more personal.
For sure.
So you just back and forth, you kind of vet each other. And then I think when you know this is a solid person, we have a lot in common, we're reciprocal.
Yes.
So you're not doing all the work.
Correct. 'Cause that's
Okay?
huge.
That's huge. So many
Yes.
people are in these one-sided relationships. Okay?
Right. Absolutely.
So it's reciprocal, and then you can give a little more information. You know, I have grief about this, and see how they do. And
Absolutely.
so what happens when you do that is you know when the chips are down and you really need something, that person will be there for you. You've kind of bared your soul a little bit. They've helped you through it. They've bared their soul. You've helped them through it.
Right.
It goes back and forth. I think then you know, okay, I can be truly vulnerable with this person.
Absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
being vulnerable is more just being open, being honest. But I think sometimes with certain personalities, it can become codependent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so making sure that there's still like healthy boundaries in
Yeah,
place.
for sure.
But also making sure that it is, I think, a reciprocal back and forth relationship is so important. But I agree with you. I think, if you test the boundaries and you're just like, that's not being mean. That's just,
Yes.
and it doesn't mean you can't be acquaintances.
Correct.
It doesn't mean you can't have that person in your life, but you just know this is, somebody that there has to be a little bit of space in between. I also would say, my grandmother used to always say, like, if you have one really good friend, you're really lucky.
Oh, yeah.
And so I
she
think
was an introvert.
yes, yes. So I think it's like the misconception is you have to have like
Yeah.
a million really good friends that you're vulnerable with. And I
Oh,
just
yeah.
don't think that's reality.
Correct. And
Yeah.
so I brought up introversion because an introvert is probably going to have, if they have 2 or 3 close friends, they're full.
Right.
One sometimes is enough.
Yes.
The reason why you want to avoid just one is what if something happens to that friendship?
Correct.
So having more, and more than
Correct.
just your partner.
Yes, that's huge.
Because women need women, men need men,
Correct.
right? And so what I would want to say also is trauma dumping
Ooh, that's a big one.
or oversharing
Yes.
is kind of the opposite of what we're talking about.
Correct.
Right? So I have sat with clients, I'm sure you've sat with patients, who I've had to say, you tell too much too soon.
Yes.
This is why you don't have friends.
Right.
Because you make them flee.
Yeah.
You haven't gone through that process.
Correct.
Everybody does not need to know all your business.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah. And in fact, we've shared some clients where that is what
That is very
we've
true.
done, and they've flown.
Right.
They learn and they become healthier people.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I think, especially on the online space, there's a desire to kind of one up with trauma.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes even in interpersonal relationships that can be challenging. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I think the internet has some really great parts to it, and social media, and I think it has some really terrible parts to it.
Absolutely.
And I spend a lot of time saying, put that down.
Yes.
That's not reality.
Yes.
They're showing you their best self or sometimes they're being
worst
their
self.
meanest self. They're trolling.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that. So I think this in person, really getting to know each other is a much better way to go.
I could not agree with that more.
Yeah.
What do you think about people who, like if somebody has been ghosted, how do you advise them to deal with that?
Yeah. So a lot of people will want to chase. They'll want to say, what did I do? What did I do? What did I want to do? Or what did I do? I think if you're going to do it once. And I wouldn't be needy. And I know that sounds terrible. I would say, hey, we were talking, something happened. I'd love to know what happened. If I need to apologize for something, let me know.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then I'd let that go. Because if
Agreed.
they ignore that,
Yeah.
that gives you more evidence that they're not your kind of person.
Yes.
They're not a safe person. I think we have a tendency to, when you're ghosted, to really want closure.
100%.
And what I want you to know is if you have that solid sense of self that I brought up before, it will hurt, but you can take care of it yourself.
Absolutely. And I think it's
Yeah.
also important to realize if you have been ghosted and you're not getting a response, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you.
Absolutely.
I think you have to take that step back and say that's really a them problem, not a you problem.
Yes.
And not go down the spiral of kind of reevaluating everything in the relationship and what's wrong with me.
Right. I'll tell you one thing I do.
Yes.
I do think if you're always getting ghosted, you have to look at yourself.
That's a great point. That's a really good point.
And you know what I tell people? There's something wrong with always allowing it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good
There's
point.
something wrong with only being attracted to a certain kind of person.
Absolutely.
Then I get a little Freudian, and I'm not generally a Freudian, y'all,
Yeah.
although there's nothing wrong with that. And I bring up, hey, what happened in your past that is causing you to get attracted to a certain kind of person that you want to fix?
Yes.
And when we can uncover that, you will stop being attracted to that narcissistic person
Absolutely.
or non-committal person or an avoidant person.
Yeah.
And so that does give power, and it is your role, and you can change that.
Absolutely.
So I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, I also, Martha, I don't know how much you did in grad school and just in beyond. Like when I was in my last year of fellowship, we did something called Bowen Family Systems.
Yes.
Which talks a lot about how kind of dynamics within a family are generational, but then can also come out in lots of different ways. So I think it's also kind of interesting to look at if you tend to be an avoider or tend to be a ghoster, is that how things are dealt with in your family dynamic?
100%.
Because I think a lot of families do deal with it that way.
And just families in general get into these negative patterns. They can be wonderful families, okay?
Absolutely.
But they're in these patterns and they don't get challenged. And so then you grow up and you stay in that pattern, like a family systems idea of the scapegoat,
Yes.
the hero,
Correct.
the savior,
Correct.
the people pleaser.
Triangulations. Yes.
Listen, I've worked with families where I've had to say, y'all stop talking about each other behind each other's backs.
And say it to each other.
That's gross.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Talk to each other so you
Absolutely.
can build that trust, because you can't trust your family members if you're all like talking about each other behind your backs.
100%. Yeah. So I think that's also, and I definitely think there are a lot of families that are more pushed under the rug.
Yes.
Let's just not worry about it. Let's just move on. It's not an issue. So I think that then is going to create the patterns in other relationships, so not just family, but romantic relationships, interpersonal relationships, friendships. So it's important to kind of recognize what is the pattern in your family, and if that's something that you are accustomed to doing when you're under great amounts of stress or just avoid, then how do you change that? Because the big thing with Bowen Family Systems is if you recognize a pattern, being logically aware of that and correcting that pattern.
Yes. And you know, the people that I admire the most are the people that come into rooms like ours and do that hard work.
Absolutely.
Because it's hard work. But
It
the
is.
payoff is huge.
It is. Yeah,
so
it takes a lot of
huge.
perseverance and bravery to really decide, like,
Really
I need
does.
to change
It
what
really
I'm doing.
does. And even if someone is, so like you have a client or a patient and they're not moving fast, I still admire them so much because I'm like, you're at least in here trying.
And sticking it out.
And I'm going to support you where you are.
Right.
And we're going to get you to that place. I think it's so important.
I could not agree with that more.
Yeah. I want to bring up another couple things. When I brought up sense of self, I'm going to give an example that people can maybe understand, and I'm going to take it to academia. So if you have a good sense of self and you take a math test and you bomb it, someone with a good sense of self, so they know who they are, they would say something like, I needed to study more, math ain't my thing, or I'm going to get a tutor so I can get through this class.
Right.
They don't say, I'm stupid and I'm a failure.
Right.
So a good sense of self is finding a different explanation that is true. It is not that I am cursed.
Correct.
I'm a bad person. So that's a sense of self kind of thing. And then, I kind of like this one. People buck up against this one, but a lot of people think if I don't tell the truth to someone, I'm a liar. And what I mean is somebody says, how are you? And then you say, well, I had blah, 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 and you're trauma dumping.
Yes.
That is not telling the truth.
Right.
That is oversharing.
Correct.
It is absolutely fine to say, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because you don't know that person.
Right. It depends on who the conversation is with.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if it's like a very superficial friendship or just a coworker, it's not something you need to spill.
So a lot of people who have this honesty thing, I will say to them, I'm going to tell you all a trick. So let's say you have a boundary pusher in your family, and they will never honor your boundary, but you have to interact with them. So I will say, it is not a lie to say I have other plans. I can't do that if the other plan is not to be with you.
Oh, I like that.
See?
Martha.
You don't have to give more information than that.
No, that's very true. Because I think then there's the other person feels like I have to explain the reason why. Like I got to give you the reasons of what I'm doing, and then it becomes like this gigantic.
Right. Now, I would only
overshare.
say that with when the party you're communicating with, they're unhealthy.
Correct.
And you're trying to be healthy.
Yes.
You know, ideally, it's two healthy people.
Having the conversation.
And I can say, hey, Mary, I can't do that lunch. And you go, oh, that's fine. We'll do it another time.
Yes.
Versus, are you avoiding me?
Exactly.
Why can't you do that lunch? I'm not going to want to be your friend if that happens.
100%.
Right.
Absolutely. No, I could not
We've
agree
had
more.
that happen.
We have.
We're busy moms.
We have. And we actually have had things on the calendar that we both forgot.
We both forgot. And you know what? I love her just as much. And she loves me just as much.
I do. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too.
Love you.
I'm so glad you're here today. Do you have any other thoughts about ghosting?
I think this is such a cool thing, Martha. I'm so thankful that you're doing this, and I hope you have me back again.
I'm going to have you back. I've had you back every time.
Really?
Yeah, will you bring Taylor too?
Yeah, so Taylor's my husband, who's my nurse practitioner, so we can get a male perspective.
Yes, for sure.
That'd be really fun.
I'd love it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Martha.
Thanks for being here. Ghosting is a bigger topic than even what we talked about today, so we may talk more about that. I really appreciated Dr. Mary Ladd and her wisdom on that. We hope she'll come back to join us. This is Dr. Martha Durham. This is the Why Did They Do That podcast. Y'all keep watching and listening.